All right, hello, welcome back to Unqualified Analysis. I am your host, Caleb. You can follow me on the socials, basically just Twitter at CalebVUA. And yeah, link to that will be down in the description. So yeah, sound off. Sound off in the comments, dude. Let us know how you like the episode. I'm a little tired today. It's been a hey, it's been a long week at work, man. I've been hauling ass at work. So, yeah, a little tired, but hey, we got NFL today, baby. We're talking about week 8 in the NFL. Going to talk a little bit about week 9. I mean, we're jam packed, baby. We're jam packed. Wild, well, not wild, but big week of trades too. I mean, teams are getting better. Contenders are getting better. In specific, maybe even my team is at the very least covering up some holes that surfaced, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But yeah, so we're recapping week 8 today. I think I added 3 picks on Tuesday. I'm gonna add 4 more today. So yeah, stay tuned for that until the end. With that said, though, let's bust this bad boy open. Let's talk about week 8, shall we? So start off chronologically. We'll just rip the Band-Aid off, folks. This one hurt a lot. The Vikings go on the road to the Rams, and they do exactly what I was afraid they'd do. They lose this game 30-20. Puka Nacua made a surprise appearance in the lineup. He was not expected to come back this week. The Rams kept that under wraps pretty damn well, and so yeah, he out of nowhere starts in this game. They activate him off of IR right before the game starts. He plays very well. Let's just say that. He played very, very well in this game. Cooper Kupp came back in this one as well. Not good. Not good for the Vikings. Second straight loss here. And the biggest loss of the day, I would say at the conservatively top 5 left tackle in the entire league right now. Certainly one of the best in the entire NFL. All-pro player, Christian Darrisaw. Play before halftime, man. You're at the 5-yard line, I believe it was. Maybe it was like the 3-yard line. I mean, too close to the goal line pretty much to take a knee, unfortunately. So you got to run it in that situation. And yeah, Christian Darrisaw kind of twists his knee a little bit. It buckles. He doesn't come back for the second half. And fearing the worst did actually happen. Torn ACL, I believe torn MCL as well. He's out for the season. And yeah, now there's a big hole at left tackle. Thankfully enough, we are all in all the time, it seems like now, under Kwesi Adofo-Mensah. So they traded a little bit of a pick swap there. We send a 5th-round pick. The Jaguars send back a 7th-round pick. And also a little side bonus there. They sent back Cam Robinson, franchise player, Pro Bowl left tackle for sure. Hey, at the very least, he is a stopgap option. Who the hell knows if we're going to keep him after this year, but he is, well, we're definitely not going to keep him after this year because our starting tackle is Christian Darrisaw. But for right now, he's a good stopgap option. It's a need that we needed to address because the offensive line is part of what makes this team so good. And adding Cam Robinson in there, you can't really complain about that. There's a reason that the Jaguars franchised him this past year. So, hey, happy for that trade. Real happy that we ended up getting ourselves Cam Robinson, but there's going to be a drop-off. I mean, Christian Darrisaw, like I said, top 5 left tackle in the league, conservatively speaking. He might be the best one in the entire league right now if you go pound for pound on this thing. Without him there, I know Cam Robinson is still good, but he's not Christian Darrisaw. There's going to be some degree of drop-off. I have faith in Kevin O'Connell to kind of scheme around it and make sure there's not enough of a drop-off to really affect the offense. TJ Hockenson coming back this coming week versus the Colts. That will help a lot. It's just a matter of, hey, these things happen throughout the course of the year. The good teams find a way to work around it and ultimately still get to where they need to go. Hey, Kevin O'Connell, you've done it before. I have faith in him to do it again. Let's see what you do with this. Obviously, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah is doing his part, and honestly, I don't have a whole lot of concerns about the Vikings going forward, especially getting TJ Hockenson back. I think you could see this team jump to a new level. 2-game skid, not the end of the world. For the Rams on the other side, though, hey man, 3-4, still very much in this thing. NFC West is down this year. I think the 49ers, I believe, just got beat this week. I could be wrong. I could be completely wrong on that, actually. No. They almost lost. They gave it a good run at the end, but they did win. We'll talk about that game a little bit. But, I mean, they're still at this point, Niners are 4-4. I believe tied with the Cardinals, leading the division right now at 4-4. It's not a great division. And with the Rams getting both Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua back, if they can both stay healthy going forward, I'm assuming you're going to get some of your offensive linemen back here at some point. The Rams slowly getting healthy, and it's the right time to do it, and it's the right division to do it in. Rams still very, very much alive in this division. I don't really think there's a bad team in the division when you kind of go round robin on this thing. I mean, the Cardinals, they're obviously much improved this year. Marvin Harrison's starting to come on down the stretch here. The 49ers are the 49ers. They're not quite the 49ers of usual because Brandon Ayuk is out for the season. They're riddled with injuries. Christian McCaffrey, they're thinking maybe he comes back week 10. We're not sure on that, though. There's injuries up and down the roster. We understand that, but, they're still a solid team. Brock Purdy's a solid quarterback. Kyle Shanahan, solid head coach. So they're still good. Seahawks, a bit up and down, but still have the pieces to put this together. You just wonder if the defense will hold it. But still, in this division, very much in this thing. And obviously, we got the Rams, who we just talked about. So, I mean, there's no team that's out of it in this division. It might be a very exciting run down the stretch, but kind of similar to an AFC South sort of run down the stretch where, yes, it is competitive, but is it really something that bears watching? I think it kind of depends on how it depends on how all these teams finish down the stretch. If one of them starts rounding into form and becoming dominant, we'll have to pay attention to them, but until someone pulls away from the pack or until a couple teams emerge even, It's a competitive division. It's going to be exciting football down the stretch here as they all start playing each other a little bit more. But it's not something where you're going to be looking there and saying, hey, the Super Bowl champion might be coming out of that division there. I don't think that's the case this year. But Rams put themselves in a really good spot to maybe make a run at this thing. So that'll be it. That'll be something to watch down the stretch here. If health continues to improve, Rams might be the best team in this whole division right now. So, again, Bears watching if nothing else. Let's move on to Sunday. Ripping off that Band-Aid wasn't so bad. Still 5-2, man. Not a good weekend for my sports teams, though, between them and Mississippi State. It was, due to football and other factors outside of football, from Thursday to Sunday, life was just throwing me nut punch after nut punch. It was brutal, absolutely brutal throughout the course of this past weekend. Hey, let's hope we built up some karma. Mississippi State's playing UMass this week. That could be either, satisfying to get the second win, or down bad to the worst possible degree. And then we got the Colts coming up this week if we're the Vikings. So hey, things might be looking up, but that Colts game is dangerous for reasons that we'll talk about here in just a bit. Anywho's, Eagles at the Bengals. Eagles killed them. 37-17. That offense is rounded into form, and, part of that does have to do with playing the Bengals, especially at home. Bengals just can't win at home for whatever reason. It's kind of shocking to see. Also, I'm going to stop edging this Gatorade and just actually drink it. Need to wet the old whistle, as they say. I figure I've just been holding that thing for a couple minutes at this point. Might as well drink it. But yeah, obviously, the offensive output for the Eagles probably has a little bit to do with the Bengals just being bad on defense. But at the same time, this is a trend we've been seeing over the last couple weeks. Now, if you look at the teams that the Eagles have played, it's a little bit of the same sort of scenario that you're seeing here with the Bengals, but hey, improvement is improvement. They're getting healthier. Having your 2-star receivers in there certainly helps. Maybe they get Dallas Goedert back this week. We'll see how that works out. Saquon Barkley is everything you wanted him to be and more, I would say, in year one with this team. So he adds an element that they haven't had in the last couple of years. And hey, I see this Eagles team. They're 5-2 now. They're right there neck and neck with the commies in this division. don't be shocked if by the end of the year they're really rounded into form and, throwing their hat in the ring as a contender in the NFC and in the NFL as a whole. So that situation bears watching. Also, you hold the Bengals to 17 points. Vic Fangio's defense is starting to come to life a little bit. It's a complicated scheme. Sometimes it takes a little bit to kind of settle in for the defense. I think they're starting to do that right now. They're still not really rushing the passer necessarily, and that's going to be a problem for them later. But still, getting better on defense and defending a really good Bengals offense very, very well. So that deserves all the credit there. Eagles starting to round into form. You're hearing a few less calls for Nick Sirianni's job. It's amazing the tightrope he walks. I mean, that's like what Howie Roseman did for quite some time there with Philadelphia. Just walking that tightrope. Maybe it's just one of those hires like, hey, this guy reminds me of me. I don't know. Maybe that's the way Howie Roseman thinks of it. I can't get into his mind. Otherwise, I would also be an elite GM. But, yeah, Eagles situation bears watching. Bengals, on the other hand, they're 3-5 now. As Joe Burrow put it, 10-7 probably gets them in the playoffs. 7 of the last 9, going 7-2 down the stretch. Doable, as he said. All that is true. That being said, I mean, maybe they win this division if things go chaotic in the AFC North. If the Browns start reeling off wins, that could make things a little bit interesting. After that, though, I mean, I don't see this team making a run. The only reason that I would, reserve a little bit of throwing down that hammer on that take is because they got Joe Burrow at quarterback. Outside of that, I mean, there's really not a whole lot outside of the offense to like. I mean, they're just too flawed on defense to make a run, in my opinion, unless something changes, and I don't really see it going that way. I don't take the Bengals seriously as contenders, and they're 0-4 at home now. Like I said, I mean, they're 3-2 on the road. 3-1 actually on the road. It's a perplexing sort of dynamic that they've got going on. Hey, with Joe Burrow, I trust that they can go 10-7 out of this whole thing. I trust that they can win, or can win, being the operative word there, 7 out of the next 9. I just, where do you go after that? Obviously, the building blocks, having a winning season, never a bad thing. But as far as postseason, I don't know. I don't think we really need to take the Bengals too seriously on that front. Let's keep it moving. Buddy, oh man. I'll tell you what, the Ravens went on the road to Cleveland. And hey, Jameis Winston, man, the life that you lead as a fan for a team that's quarterbacked by Jameis Winston, it is it's like being on that sweet, sweet crack rock. I'll tell you what, man, the highs, the lows, the manic peaks, it's something to behold, and ultimately it worked out for you this week. 29-24, you get the win at home versus the Ravens, a fan base that was starved for a win. Haven't had a home win since last season, or last year in the playoffs, really. They get that win. Ecstasy in Cleveland. Absolute devastation in Baltimore. And hey, Jameis Winston, man, he's already got more 300-yard passing games as a Brown than Deshaun Watson. So 334 yards in this one, 3 touchdowns. Did throw a couple interceptions, I do believe, but that's the Jameis Winston experience, man. That's the Jameis Winston experience. That and the host of clips that came out of this past game. You saw one in the locker room where he's well, it's not in the locker room, it's in the tunnel. Before you come out, Jameis Winston huddles the guys together, has this whole, moving speech, and then says, play for the name on the jersey and on the helmet. Well, we don't have a decal, but you know what I mean. That was the first clip. Awesome. Love Jameis Winston so much. Then there's obviously the pregame clip that everyone saw, where he just basically said, belief in the Lord, unwavering, or dependence on the Lord, unwavering faith, and all that sort of stuff. And it sounded like that was the only programmed response because of, every question that the sideline reporter asked him, it was just, the same logged response. Like someone said on Twitter, and this one made me laugh because it feels so true. Jameis Winston, in these interviews, feels like he's playing a part in a movie that only he has the script to and only he knows is going on. That's just kind of, it felt like he had some programmed responses for the interviews and he just kind of regurgitated them like lines that he had read before in the most entertaining way possible. It's fantastic. Both those interviews. Now they started a little bit slow and then you let Jameis start being Jameis and something hilarious comes out of him. And at the end, it was just repeating that same program response. Like the sideline reporter, I can't even remember what the question was, but it felt like Jameis Winston didn't have an answer programmed into the system for that particular question. So he just regurgitated the same, slogan, mantra that he was coming into the game with, unwavering belief, faith, all that sort of good stuff, dependence on the Lord, blah, blah, blah. Not blah, blah, blah. I respect your religion out there. But he just went right into the lines there, so that was fantastic. And then in the post game, obviously after a big time performance, last second touchdown to ultimately go ahead and get the win, obviously dude is fired up. And I would say 50 seconds of that interview, just passionate player talk, man, nothing really to laugh at. Then you get to the last 30 seconds of the interview and he starts out the answer of a question by saying, there's this white boy in Detroit that I admire. And at this point, through that portion of the sentence, that could be any white boy in Detroit. That could just be, that could be like literally it could be Kid Rock. It could be another prominent person. It could be just some guy. Jameis Winston went to Detroit one time, and some guy on the corner just, caught Jameis's eye, and he admires the hell out of him. At this point, it could be any white boy from Detroit. Then he says, there's this white boy in Detroit named Eminem, who I admire, who once said, you get one shot, don't miss your chance. This opportunity lasts once in a lifetime, which doesn't make any sense. Or this opportunity lasts a lifetime is what he said. Misquoted the song. It is what it is. It is what it is there. I just know he quoted 8 Mile on national television in an interview. I love Jameis Winston so much. Words can't describe. I could watch hours I say of him just saying words, just telling me how his day was. Really. Steer away from the controversial topics. I don't really need to know his opinions on politics. But if you're talking just like trivial concepts here, like just random stuff that pops into Jameis's brain, we need a live camera on Jameis, man. That's what we need right now. Cut out all the sensitive stuff. We need like a Hard Knocks style camera where it's just, we don't even hear any sort of controversial remarks from other players. We just hear unfiltered stream of consciousness from Jameis, outside of the edits, of course. But if we could just do that, just our weekly Jameis report, you could easily fill 30 minutes with weekly Jameis. He's a quote machine. I think if you just put a microphone on him at all times, you could get some real gold out of that. I'm not trying to give out free ideas. So HBO, if you're listening to this, you are going to have to pay me for that idea, and I'm going to come after that. I know some people. I'll make sure to come after you. That's for sure. So that being said, though, I don't really know where I'm going to go with that. I'm not giving out free ideas, but there's a free idea for you. Just give Jameis a mic and let him go. As far as the Browns, hey, we're going to see how this whole thing works out. I feel like with Jameis at the helm, you look at the rest of the roster, and even after you trade Amari Cooper, Xavier Tillman had a really good game in this last one. Elijah Moore came alive. David Njoku is still there, is still present. Offensive line has obviously fallen off due to injuries, but Nick Chubb is back, kind of rounding into form slowly but surely. The defense, very talented still. That's been the case for quite some time there in Cleveland. They're 2-6 now, but let's take a look at the schedule here, because I feel like they got a chance to really reel off some wins. So they get the Chargers this week. That's going to be a tough one. That's a must-win situation, though. Then they're at the Saints. They got the Steelers. They're at the Broncos. They're at the Steelers again. They got the Chiefs. They're at the Bengals, Dolphins. Then they're at the Ravens to end off the year. So not the easiest stretch in the world. but some winnable games there, some real winnable games. And if they can win a couple of those games that they're not expected to, they already won one against the Ravens here. Hey man, maybe Cleveland's making some noise down the stretch. They're going to have to get incredibly, insanely hot, but maybe Cleveland's going to become a sneaky, feisty team here going forward. I think that's something that bears watching. But as far as the other team in this matchup, the Ravens, I just feel like they're a souped-up version of what the Bengals are, right? So they have better players on defense. I will give them that. Kyle Hamilton, stud. Roquan Smith, maybe a little bit worse, not quite as good as he has been in previous year, but still, stud. Justin Madubuike, you just paid him, stud. Also, not sure if he's actually in the game right now. That's something I should probably check before spouting off of them out. But still, you have good players. The problem is, you don't really have an edge rush right now. There's no one player that can really get you a whole lot of pressure on the quarterback. And forgot about Marlon Humphrey. He was actually out for this game with a knee injury, I'm pretty sure. But he still have him. Nate Wiggins playing all right, up and down like a rookie is generally, rookie cornerback. But the problem is when the quarterback has all day, the opposing quarterback has all day to just dice you up back there. I don't care if you got Kyle Hamilton and Marlon Humphrey on the back end with some solid supporting pieces in there. You're going to get gashed because it's hard to cover for 3, 4, 5 seconds in the NFL. It's almost impossible to do, really. So that's where the Ravens have some problems on defense, and you've seen it again and again. And unless they make some sort of deal at the trade deadline, I don't see it getting a whole lot better. And I'm just not sure what pieces are available. Max Crosby, pretty firmly ruled out at this point, though. Hey, if the Ravens come in and knock the socks off of the Raiders there with a big time offer that they can't say no to, hey, maybe they make that deal. That seems like he's off the market, though. Hassan Reddick, who, by the way, sorry about that, hand up, my bad, forgot to mention that Hassan Reddick is back in the facility now. They came to a quick, 1-year agreement, a little pay bump, and you come back for the rest of the season. We'll negotiate from there, sort of thing. So hey, he's back. He's back. Not available anymore, I would say. I think the Jets need every player that they can get at this point. We're going to talk about that stinky doo-doo garbage franchise here in just a bit. Yeah, I don't know where you get a pass rusher from at this juncture of things. The Patriots just traded, maybe the last pass rusher on the roster. So yeah, I just don't see it getting a whole lot better. I mean, maybe Lamar Jackson is brilliant enough to overcome everything that's wrong with the defense. Really just that one major glaring thing that's wrong with the defense. But barring that possibility, and it is a possibility, don't get me wrong, Lamar Jackson might be on the road to his third MVP here of his short, illustrious career. It's a very flawed team, and they're going to have a hard time making it deep in the playoffs, especially when you start facing off against the Bills offense, especially after they just got Amari Cooper. The Kansas City offense, they're not great right now, but with Patrick Mahomes, you expect them to do well enough to get them over that hump. And the defense is still very, very good. They've also been the bugaboo of every team in the AFC over the last couple of years. When they face off against very good offenses in the playoffs with solid defenses on the other side, I worry about the sustainability of what the Ravens are doing right now. I think this loss just kind of highlights the biggest flaws on the team. Don't get me wrong, though. The offense still, probably right behind Detroit, probably number 2 offense in the league right now. They're still spectacular. Do not get it twisted on that. They are still a very, very good offensive football team. Defense has just got some things to figure out, and they have to find a way to manufacture pressure on the quarterback. Zach Orr has got his hands full there. He knows the assignment ahead of him, and I am sure that there will be adjustments going forward. It's just a matter of what those adjustments will be, and will they be enough to ultimately get the Ravens over this hump? Because if they can figure things out in the defense, the offense is good enough to get them where they want to go, all the way to the Super Bowl when it's all said and done. So that Ravens defense, if it gets better, we might be cooking with gas. If not, I have a hard time seeing them get far in the playoffs. Okay, we'll touch on this one just real quick. Sad game. The Lions just ran the Titans out of the state of Michigan over the Canadian border even. They didn't even drive them down to Nashville. They just pushed them over the Canadian border and said, figure it out, man. Get through customs. By the way, you don't have TSA pre-check. You don't have any sort of anything to expedite that process. You're going to have to go through the slowest possible route to get back into the United States. And then we didn't get you a flight either. You're going to have to drive all the way back down to Nashville. That is what the Lions just did to the Titans. 52-14. And the Lions did not score a point in the fourth quarter. They scored 52 points in 3 quarters. The Titans look hapless. They look terrible. Mason Rudolph looked awful in this game. The Titans are a bad, stinky football team, and they're trading away pieces at this point. Maybe they trade away Calvin Ridley. Who's to say? Hey, if the strategy in free agency was just to sign a bunch of quality players and then just flip them for assets, and then ultimately obfuscate your main goal of just tanking, hey, fair play, I guess. Fair play. I don't condone tanking, but hey, fair play. That's what we call an investment right there. You're not getting monetary value back for that. However, you are getting draft capital value back for that. So, hey, things can happen here. Things can happen in the Titans' future. Rand Carthon, this next draft is going to be huge. Not the biggest draft. The following draft will be the biggest draft of his tenure as the Titans GM. That is assuming that he makes it to that point. But this draft is huge for him. Make no mistake about it. Because this team stinks. Don't need to talk about them. The Lions, though, they're the best team in the NFC, I would say right now. I think that's pretty undisputed at this point. I mean, Jared Goff had another crazy, ultra-efficient game. Didn't even really throw for a lot of yards, 12 of 15 for 85 yards, but throws for 3 touchdowns. Jahmyr Gibbs broke off another really long run in this one, had 127 yards on 11 carries, got a touchdown as well. 4 different receiving touchdowns to 4 different players. Oh yeah, by the way, forgot David Montgomery threw a strike in the back of the end zone to Brock Wright in this game. It was a beaut. It was a real beaut. So Sam Laporta, Khalif Raymond, who had a crazy game, by the way. He had a punt return for a touchdown. He had a receiving touchdown in this one. He was all over the field. He was fantastic. Brock Wright scored a touchdown, and Amon-Ra St. Brown scored a touchdown as well. Bad game if you had the over props on, any of these offensive players. But at the same time, good game if you had the Lions on the spread, which we did. We did. Don't mean to toot our own horns, but we did. So, yeah, good stuff. Good stuff here from the Detroit Lions. They're a wagon. Just an absolute nuclear weapon of a football team. That Khalif Raymond touchdown, by the way, 90 yards. 90 yards for a touchdown. It was electric. Electric day for Khalif Raymond. Outside of that, though, yeah, I mean, what more is there to say about the Lions? The defense is good, even without Hutchinson in there. Offense is unstoppable. So if the defense is just average, which they are more than capable of doing, Brian Branch, by the way, quickly turning into one of the best players in the entire NFL. He's all over the field. He's like a smaller Kyle Hamilton. He's a junkyard dog. I tell you what. If they're just average, though, that's the baseline that they need to hold. Just average. The offense is going to win them pretty much every game. Barring the possibility that you face off against an offense that is on the caliber of Detroit, which there isn't one right now, quite frankly, that offense is going to outscore basically everyone in the NFL. The only hope that you have is turnovers, and they are not turning the ball over right now. They didn't turn the ball over once in this game, and Jared Goff is playing legitimate MVP level, best level of his career sort of offense at the moment. This Detroit Lions team, are we talking Super Bowl right now? Are we maybe talking a little trip to the Super Bowl and bringing home the bacon? Now, obviously, I too am rooting for a Super Bowl contending team that is in the same division as Detroit, so I'm not rooting for this. However, if I had to say who the best team in the NFL was right now, it's the Detroit Lions. And I get that one loss is there on the record, and that blemish is, hard to get past at times. But this team is loaded. absolutely loaded. They've gotten better every single year under Dan Campbell. They did it once again this year. They are legit. I think if the expectation right now is the very baseline is NFC Championship in my mind. You should be expecting Super Bowl. They are, like I said, the best team in the NFL right now, I would say. And I'm not going to say it's not even close. This is the NFL at the end of the day. It's all a close margin here. But the Lions are tough, and they're going to be a problem all season. We'll see what happens in this division, though. I think they still got a few losses in the division left on that schedule. So stay tuned on that one. Detroit's a wagon. Absolute wagon. I spent way too long on that game. I apologize. Let's just get a quick time check. 30 minutes already, and we've been through 4 games. Speed this thing up a little bit more, shall we? The Cardinals get a win in exciting fashion there. Game-winning field, well, was it a game-winning field? Yeah, it was a game-winning field goal. I apologize for being confused there. Kyler Murray goes crazy. Trey McBride goes crazy. They get the win 28-27 over the Dolphins, who dropped to 2-5. Tua Tagovailoa in his return, what did he do for you? Well, he got 28 of 38, 234 yards, 1 touchdown. Pretty par for the course for Tua for what he is as a player. So no surprises there. Tyreek Hill, welcome back to relevancy. You are back in the spotlight. Devon Achane, welcome back to having receiver type numbers. That's good for you. I appreciate you as a man and as a human being as a whole. But the Cardinals, man, I'll tell you what, they look like a better coached team. They look like the offense is starting to come around. I mean, look at this. Marvin Harrison Jr. had 111 yards, 1 touchdown. Trey McBride, like I just said, 9 receptions for 124 yards to lead the team. Didn't get a touchdown, but he was spectacular. Michael Wilson got a touchdown. Kyler Murray, I got to check to make sure, did not turn the ball over in this game. He had 2 touchdowns, 307 yards through the air, 8.5 yards per attempt. Didn't have crazy rushing numbers, but that's always a factor that you have to account for when you're playing Kyler Murray because, again, he is spectacular. He is very, very good. And if this Cardinals defense can just show a little bit of life in this division, I went over it before, but they are very much still in this thing. And they got a last place schedule from being so bad last year. So anything can happen for this Arizona Cardinals team. They got a favorable path to maybe make a playoff run. And if that is the case, Jonathan Gannon, you are most likely the coach of the year. So that's another situation to monitor there with the Arizona Cardinals. I like the way they're playing, a little bit up and down. But year 2 under the new regime, you got to be really excited with what you got, and I think they did pretty okay in their first draft there, especially with Marvin Harrison coming around in this team setting. Okay, so we keep it moving from there. The Patriots beat another dog shit AFC East team, the Jets, 25-22. The Jets get Hassan Reddick back, and once it gets them a loss on the road to maybe the worst team in the NFL. Nope, that's the Panthers, but one of the worst teams in the entire NFL, the New England Patriots. And it wasn't even really Aaron Rodgers' fault entirely. Aaron Rodgers didn't turn the ball over. He had 8.3 yards per attempt. He had 2 touchdowns. Breece Hall, not a bad game at all. I mean, he had 80 yards on the ground, didn't get a touchdown, but he still had an okay game. Braylon Allen scored that touchdown. Did bring down the yard per carry average, but, we can't hold that against him here. I mean, the defense, Hassan Reddick, did he even really factor into this game? I don't see him on the stat sheet here, and maybe I'm just overlooking him. Maybe I'm blind. But I don't see I don't see one Hassan Reddick anywhere on the stat sheet. That's pretty interesting. The Jets are such a bad football team. And I'm not even really going to talk about the New England Patriots. Drake May did suffer a concussion in this game, obviously questionable for next week. So that's a situation to monitor. But the Patriots are a top 5 pick sort of team. They're stinky poo-poo garbage. We don't really need to spend a significant amount or really any amount of time on the New England Patriots. The Jets we don't really need to spend a whole lot of time on either, though, because they're just not a very good football team. They're limited on offense. The defense is not as good as it has been in past years. You missed your window with a good defense. You ran Robert Saleh out of town, even though it's not really his fault. It's Joe Douglas's fault over there with the New York Jets. So I don't know where you go from here. I mean, hey, maybe you hope that you can reel off some wins. Have at it. I don't really see. They're 2-6. They're just not very. They're not very good. They're not very good right now, and I don't see that changing. Even with the addition of Hassan Reddick into the lineup, even with the addition of Devontae Adams, for whatever reason, they just stink. They just stink. And I can tell you what the reason is. It's because they're a bad organization. So, with that said, just erase the Jets from our memory. Ugh, gross. Don't even want to think about that. The Falcons were at the Buccaneers. The Falcons got the win 31-26. Let it get a lot closer than it should have been at the end there. Baker Mayfield continues the Renaissance tour. 330 yards through the air, 3 touchdowns. Almost came back and got him a win with a limited receiving core over there with the Buccaneers. But ultimately, it was not to be. Kyle Pitts had a couple long touchdowns in this one, 91 yards on 4 receptions and 2 touchdowns in this game. Starting to run into form. It's amazing what happens when you have a real quarterback throwing you the ball with an offensive coordinator that doesn't hate playmakers like Arthur Smith seemed to have that problem with the last couple of years, really. Really just last year. Last year was weird for Arthur Smith, I'll tell you what, but that's besides the point. I mean, the Falcons are the best team in this division. That's not enough beating around the bush, as they say. I mean, you got the Panthers who are terrible, the Saints who are terrible, Buccaneers who are bereft due to injury, and it's not their fault, but they're not as good as the Falcons. The Falcons should win this division comfortably down the stretch. So long as they win the games as they're supposed to, I think the Falcons are going to end up winning this division because they got the best quarterback. Maybe. I mean, Baker Mayfield's pretty good, but Kirk Cousins has been slinging the ball around there. Does not matter that he is not very mobile. It doesn't matter for his game. He's just an accurate quarterback, and at this point, he's just a really good quarterback. So, hey, I'm happy to see Kirk doing well. I'm happy to see that he's adapting to the new climate there in Atlanta, doing corny things in the locker room. It's beautiful to see over there in Atlanta, and, I wish him all the best, health, wellness, success, all that sort of good stuff. I don't hate Kirk Cousins at all, folks. But yeah, the Falcons, they're just good enough on defense to where their offense can win most games in the division and, a good majority of the games overall. I have a pretty sneaking suspicion that the Falcons are going to end up running away with this division a little bit. I like them. I like them a lot in this division, and the offense is really starting to hum, man. It is really starting to come around. So, yeah. Do I think they're a Super Bowl contender? Not really, but they are a playoff team, for sure, in the NFC. They're a playoff team, and hey, all it takes is just getting hot at the right time, so you never know. You never know. Just get in the dance and see what happens from there. The Giants are a testament to the fact that you can be bad for a lot of the regular season, then you just get hot at the right time, and it can just result in the Super Bowl. Not common, but it has happened on several occasions, I would say. The Packers, ultimately, it was more interesting than it probably should have been, but the Packers do get the win against the Jaguars on the road, 30-27. They lose us the bet, but they win the game. They're 6-2 now. I believe they're second in the division, since they have that they haven't had their bye week, so they have that 6 wins. So I guess bump the Vikings down to third at this point. But hey, they're an impressive team. Jeff Hafley definitely has paid off as a hire. Matt LaFleur is still Matt LaFleur. Now, Jordan Love is going to have to stop getting injured. Now, he got a groin injury. Doesn't seem too serious, but seems to just keep getting injuries, and you don't like to see that. You hope that stops here if you can help it. You can't, but if you can't help it, just try and turn off the injury setting there for Jordan Love. That being said, even if Jordan Love comes out, Malik Willis, with Matt LaFleur as the coordinator, hey, I don't know what he's going to look like anywhere else, but with Matt LaFleur as the coordinator, Malik Willis is just a solid quarterback, a quarterback that you can win with when you can play a little bit behind your defense in a solid running game with Josh Jacobs, who had 127 yards and 2 touchdowns in this game, by the way. Bears mentioning, for sure, you get over 5 yards per carry and 2 touchdowns, we give you love. But there's just weapons all over the field for this Packers offense, and the defense is starting to come around. They're creating havoc. They're creating turnovers back there. They got some really solid players in the secondary, some solid players in the front seven. The Packers, if they were in any other division in the NFC, pretty much, they would be favored to win that thing. Unfortunately, they are in the same division as the Detroit Lions, the Chicago Bears, and the Minnesota Vikings. So, man, the NFC North is fantastic. Just a fantastic year in the NFC North this year. Jaguars stink, and they lost Christian Kirk for the year, so they can't really, pawn him off on the trade market to a contender anymore. Yeah, bad time. Bad time. Is it ever a good time to be a Jaguars fan? Let's be honest here. It's never really fun to be a Jaguars fan, but not a good time right now. And I'm sure none of the blame will fall on Trent Baalke whatsoever. It seems to be the case every year. Okay, the Texans just eked one out against the Colts, 23-20. Anthony Richardson. I mean, I gotta look at these numbers, man, because someone on Twitter put it best when they said every stat line, I think it was actually Brett Coleman on Twitter, every stat line for Anthony Richardson looks like a game from the 1920s. In this edition of the 1920 stat line, he went 10 for 32 for 175 yards. And I laugh because he had 10 completions. That is 17 and a half yards per completion. The long reception in this game was Josh Downs for 69 yards. Anthony Richardson only throws the ball deep. It's hilarious. He was bad in this game, by the way. 10 for 32, 175 yards, a touchdown, an interception. He got tired at one point and took himself out of the game. And that would just be speculation if he handled things right in the press conference. Unfortunately, hey, buddy, sometimes you can just lie. You don't have to tell us the truth all the time. But he did, and when asked about it in the press conference, he said, yeah, I was just tired. I'm not going to lie. Again, should probably lie. Sometimes it's okay to lie, Anthony. It's better for everyone involved if you just lie sometimes. It's not going to hurt you. In fact, this lie would have helped you a lot, I would say. Anthony Richardson, he got benched. He is not starting versus the Vikings this next week. Joe Flacco is starting, which stinks for me because I was kind of hoping that Anthony Richardson's inefficient ass would be starting against that havoc-causing Vikings defense. I can understand why they didn't want to play Anthony Richardson against that. But yeah, Joe Flacco's taken over. I don't think he'll take over for the rest of the season. I think Anthony Richardson makes a return at some point here. But hey, it's interesting to see. We'll see. It depends how they handle this. Again, I think Anthony Richardson's still very much in the long-term plans for him. This is being an insanely quick trigger to give up on him. So I don't think that is the case. But how they handle this and whether Anthony Richardson comes back in the lineup this year is going to tell us a lot about how they feel about Anthony Richardson. He's been awful this year, just terrible. And hey, maybe this is the best thing for him. Just sit down, take a breather, go back and learn how to prepare a little bit better. That's, some of the rumblings from people in the know is that, the team was feeling that he wasn't necessarily preparing up to standard for the NFL level. So, hey, get back to the drawing board, learn a little bit, take a breather, and then we'll hit this thing in a couple of weeks or so. Maybe even next week if things don't go great for Joe Flacco and they feel like they can just put Anthony Richardson right back in. I don't think it's the end for Anthony Richardson, but he's been bad, and hey, you can't keep trotting Anthony Richardson out there and look your team in the eye and say you're trying to give your team the best chance to win. That's just an incongruous picture there. I do wish Anthony Richardson was starting against my team, though. I'm just going to say that right now, which is why they probably benched him. The Texans, though, they got the win. They're 6-2, starting to get a stranglehold on this AFC South division right now. They're clearly the best team in that division. That was expected coming in. It is held through the early portion of the regular season. They got some real issues in the running game, though, man. They've got, without Joe Mixon in there, and Joe Mixon was in there in this game. He ran for 102 yards, only 4.1 yards per carry and a touchdown, though. The running game overall averaged 3.3 yards per carry. they've just not been good on the ground. They're basically just hoping that CJ Stroud bails them out constantly. And oh, by the way, CJ Stroud just lost Stephon Diggs for the season with an ACL injury. So now you're just kind of hoping that Nico Collins can come back as quick as possible because, I mean, Tank Dell is a fine receiver. Dalton Schultz is a fine tight end, but I'm just not sure what the roster's offering you outside of those two players right now. They need some fresh bodies on the outside, and I've just been unimpressed with Bobby Sloak as an offensive coordinator. Really the last 2 years. He had some good moments last year, but just has not been clicking this year. All the success kind of comes down to Joe Mixon and CJ Stroud being pretty solid players. Outside of that, there's some questions that need answered on this offense, and we'll see if Bobby Sloak has the answers, but I've been unimpressed so far with the job that he's done this year. But still, Houston Texans 6-2. That defensive line is ferocious, I say. Ferocious. Will Anderson had himself a sack in this game. They had 5 sacks overall. Danielle Hunter had 2 sacks in this game, being exactly the player that we expected him to be. I miss you a lot, Danielle. You're such a good player, man. You're a stud. Again, no ill will to Danielle Hunter at all. I mean, it's a simple calculation of not only do the Texans offer me more, I'm going to a state with no state income tax. It's a pretty no-brainer move, especially when you consider that the Texans are an up-and-coming team that is expected to be a contender this year. Kind of an open and shut case. I can't blame him at all for taking that deal, especially on a short term to where you can re-up after 2 years, and you're going to be on the older side with some injury history that makes you question, but you could still cash right back in at a $20+ million rate. Danielle Hunter did the exact right thing for his pocketbook and probably for his career as a whole. No ill will held towards him at all. But that offense, though, man, that's the real moral of the story is I don't necessarily trust him right now. That being said, I trust CJ Stroud and I trust this defense. So the Texans are legit. They're one of the best teams in the AFC. I think they're going to round into shape here at some point as we go along. But obviously the Stephon Diggs injury does not help. But I do think with CJ Stroud, and they have enough pieces around him on offense to where they're going to get something figured out here. And I think they're going to kind of, fire on all cylinders as we get down the stretch of this year. The Colts, they have a good coach, so they have an opportunity to win games. Also, they're in a bad division, which offers them the opportunity to win games. But I don't think we need to take them too seriously as a contender, and that's pretty much all I got to say about that. The Chargers beat the Saints 26-8. The Saints are a terrible football team, just bad. Spencer Rattler got benched in this one. Could have told you how that was going to go, but there's a reason he slipped into the 5th round. I'll just leave it at that. Ladd McConkey's a monster. 111 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's doing exactly kind of what I thought he would do. He's not going to get 140 receptions or whatever I said it, hyperbolic back whenever I predicted it, but he's going to push 100 and he's going to be the leading receiver on this team by a mile. He is really, really good, and he just looks different when he runs. He's got a quickness that you just can't teach. He's dynamic after the catch, and I know it's stereotypical, but he does play a lot like Cooper Kupp, okay? Sue me. I'm comparing the white wide receiver to the white wide receiver. It's just a comp that matches, though, man. They run elite, precise routes. They're both dynamic after the catch. They've got some good speed. Ladd McConkey's actually got better speed than Cooper Kupp if you're just talking about the tracking numbers there. But come on, guys. They're so similar as players. Don't hold it against me that I'm just taking the low-hanging fruit. Sometimes the low-hanging fruit is the best fruit, okay? It's not always that the higher fruit is the riper fruit. Sometimes the best fruit is the low-hanging stuff. So yeah, he's just such a good player. And the Chargers, they're 4-3 now. I expect them to keep winning. I don't know how good they are or how much legs that this whole run has. You still got Justin Herbert. You've still got an offensive coordinator that can scheme the hell out of the run. You got a really good defense with Jesse Minter at the helm there. Hey, if there's one thing that the Harbaughs can do, it's hire goddamn defensive coordinators. They don't ever miss, it feels like, on defensive coordinator hires. So the Chargers, man, in an AFC West that, sure. Hey, actually, come to think of it, the Denver Broncos are coming around. The Chiefs is the Chiefs. AFC West is pretty fierce. I'll tell you what, actually. But this Chargers team, they just keep on winning games. They keep grinding them out. just ho-hum, 4-3 as we get down the stretch here, very much in the mix of things, especially in the AFC for a playoff spot. Saints not so much. You might want to just, if you haven't done it already, Dennis Allen, you might want to list the old house on Zillow. Just a word to the wise there, because I don't think you're going to have to worry about keeping permanent residents in New Orleans for a whole lot longer, unfortunately. The Bills ran the Seahawks out of their own stadium. They pushed them over the Canadian border, too. You gave them a flight back, TSA pre-check. It was a forceful but not detrimental bumping over the border. Still 31-10, though. They beat the hell out of the Seahawks. The Bills did. They were firing on all cylinders. James Cook continues to be one of the best running backs in the league this year. Josh Allen still playing MVP caliber football. Keon Coleman is starting to make big plays every single week. And if he's good, we're in a good spot. I'm actually disappointed that I have not heard more fantastic quotes out of our favorite friend, Keon Coleman. Golden Retriever energy, man. It's impossible not to like Keon Coleman. Just a sense of wonderment at basically anything that you say as a person. I love Keon Coleman more than words can describe. So him being good is just good for everybody. The Bills, though, I still don't really know what the Seahawks are. They continue to perplex and confuse me on a weekly basis. They're 4-4 now. They're not in a great division. They're still very much in the mix of things there, and I think they have a good head coach in Mike McDonald, good offensive coordinator in Ryan Grubb. We'll see if they come together down the stretch. I think they got the right coaching staff to pull this together. It's just a matter of whether the roster cooperates with that projection. The Bills, though, they look every bit of a top 2-3 team in the not ACC, we're not talking college right now, in the AFC, with Josh Allen. They might not have the best quarterback in the AFC. That's still Patrick Mahomes, but they have the quarterback that's maybe playing the best. Him and Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen that being, and Lamar Jackson are playing out of their minds right now, both playing MVP level football, and you just get Amari Cooper, you're still working him into the fold, kind of figuring out how he fits in there and gets his touches. This Bills team, and especially with the defense playing well once again, this Bills team primed to make another run. Even with all the attrition that they had, you backfilled well, and as a result, you have been rewarded. Shout out to Brandon Beane. He did a good job on this roster, it looks like. We'll just have to see if the draft picks work out. Looks like Keon Coleman is working out swimmingly right now, I would say. But the Bills are dangerous. Very, very dangerous. And in a down AFC, they can really reel off some, not just a down AFC and a down AFC East in particular. They can really reel off some wins and put themselves in the conversation for a 1 seed. Now, that's going to be moot if the Chiefs just keep on winning games. But hey, they are very much in the thick of things for a 1 seed, and if they can get home field advantage, hey, that might be the best opportunity for them to get all the way to the Super Bowl. The AFC is wide open this year. The Chiefs are still the Chiefs. They still haven't lost a game. The offense hasn't looked good, but it didn't look good last year, and they won a Super Bowl. But outside of that, hey, wide open spot there at number 2, and the Bills are filling that in pretty emphatically at the moment. We'll see if it stays that way, but very much a Super Bowl contender. Very much every bit as good of a team as they have been over the last several seasons, I would say, are the Bills. And let's not forget that the Ravens blew them out a couple weeks ago. The Broncos improved to 5-3. 28-14, the final score over the hapless Panthers. And I'll tell you what, Bo Nix, don't look now, but he's playing like a downright serviceable quarterback at the moment. He had 28 of 37, 284 yards. Look at that. A perfectly average yards per attempt number, 7.7. Lucky 7, man. That's, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, rushed for a touchdown as well. Didn't lose a fumble either, so he didn't turn the ball over at all. Accounted for all 4 touchdowns for the Denver Broncos. Hey, don't look now, but maybe Sean Payton might have been a little bit right. Now, were they playing the worst team in the NFL? Certainly. That's an undebatable fact right there. The Panthers are just second year in a row where they are embarrassing. They're the most disgusting team in the entire league right now for a myriad reasons, but they're bad. They are real bad. Bryce Young didn't play necessarily terrible by his standards, but still 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, under 7 yards per attempt. So not good. But hey, Broncos 5-3 though, man, and they got some big games coming up. Maybe the division's a little bit much to ask for, but I mean, this stretch here is gonna tell the tale. I mean, the Panthers are probably the last breather that they have. I mean, I guess you got the Raiders coming up in a couple weeks, but back-to-back road games at the Ravens, at the Chiefs. Then they play the Falcons at home. Obviously, you get the Raiders the week after that, but you're on the road at the Raiders. You get the Browns with Jameis Winston at quarterback. You never know. That's a wild, sneaky game there. Then you got the Colts at home. You're at the Chargers, you're at the Bengals, and then you play the Chiefs to end off the season. They're about to go through a gauntlet here. So we're going to see how real this Denver Broncos renaissance is, how good this 5-3 start is. But they got a good head coach. If the quarterback he's rounded into form the way that he has over the last couple of weeks, seems to get better week after week. I think he's really starting to round together and turn into a solid rookie quarterback at this point. Hey, the Broncos might be sneaky here. They might be sneaky. So that's a situation that bears monitoring. We're going to find out a lot about them here down the stretch of the season, though, because they play a brutal run of teams outside of like 2 or 3 games in there. It's going to be a slog down the stretch, though, and hey, I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to see it, quite frankly. Probably we'll get to that in a second. The Chiefs do beat the Raiders 27-20. Wasn't pretty. Patrick Mahomes broke I think he went the whole month of October pretty much up until this point without a touchdown pass. That was pretty wild. He throws 2 in this game, ultimately gets the win over the Raiders. Kareem Hunt, not efficient, but gets a touchdown. Fantasy owners rejoice. Travis Kelce, hey, workman-like, 10 receptions, 90 yards, a touchdown. Taylor was, I'm sure, happy up in the box away from the plebeians, I suppose. But hey, 27-20, they get the win. They're the only undefeated team left. 7-0. It's a little bit of a shaky 7-0, but a 7-0 nonetheless. They are still, the Chiefs is the Chiefs. What else is there to say? We'll see if they get a receiver at the deadline. I would not be shocked if they made a move at a guy like Calvin Ridley. I think that's the clearest option that may be available on the board right now. I'm sure Calvin Ridley would not try. He wouldn't complain at all at that trade. So the Chiefs need a receiver. The cavalry is not coming in the receiving corps for the Chiefs. I think they're going to make a move here. They still got a little bit of run up before the trade deadline, but it just feels like, especially with the trades that are flying around right now, which they actually did make a trade. They did trade for Josh Uche. I forgot about that from the not Steelers, Patriots. Different sort of team there. They did trade for Josh Uche, so he'll slot in on the outside for some pass rush help. We'll see how he does down the stretch of this year, but I just feel like there's another move in the offing for a wide receiver. Christian Kirk getting hurt is disappointing because that would probably be the one that they would have gone after, but Calvin Ridley might be still out there. It's just a matter of where the Titans see the price at on him and whether you're willing to pay that price. But watch the Chiefs here in the coming weeks. I feel like they're going to make another move on the trade front that they've not quite gotten around to yet. The funniest game of the day by far, one of the saddest too. This was a putrid football game. The Commanders end up getting the win with 1 touchdown that came with zeros on the clock. I just got to take you through this. Bears were at the commies in this game, right? So going into the fourth quarter, we had ourselves a 12-7 barn burner. And that barn burner held for most of the fourth quarter. It was 12-7. Caleb Williams takes the Bears down the field. And with like 20 seconds left in the game, he throws a go-ahead touchdown. They get the 2-point conversion. Bears are like, okay, we got this in the bag. 5-2, baby. We needed this win. This was awesome. Not so fast, though, my friend, because the Commanders ultimately get to around midfield with 2 seconds left. And I'll tell you what, brutal play if you are a Bears fan. Hilarious if you are like anyone else in the NFC North. So what happens is, first and foremost, on the Hail Mary play, 2 seconds left, you're at the midfield line. Everyone knows what's going to happen. Pretty standard defense. everyone just hop down at the goal line or in the end zone, and you just make sure you got a body in everyone, and you bat that son of a bitch down to the ground. That's the playbook. Unfortunately, Tyreek Stevenson decided that it was an appropriate time. Hey, it's a Hail Mary. No one hits a Hail Mary, right? He turned around to the Commanders' home crowd and shit-talking. Meanwhile, there's Bears fans in the front row pointing at the play saying, Tyreek, the play has started. Do your job, please. Please do your job. Now, he does that for a good couple seconds. Then he turns around, realizes there's players running. He's like, shit, I should probably get into position here. He runs back into the play. He goes for the ball. Not only does he not bat it down, he tips it up into the air, jumps in front of a teammate to tip it up into the air. And oh, by the way, the man that he probably should have been covering on the play, Noah Brown, he's standing all alone in the end zone. The ball tips back to him. He catches it. Zeros on the clock. You ain't kicking the extra point on that one. The Commanders got the win, 18-15. Just a hilarious finish in this game. You just ripped the heart out of the Bears faithful. I loved this game. This game was just wonderful. It was an all-time day for the quad box, man. There were games in the 1 o'clock hour, games in the witching hour. I mean, they were just going off. They were popping off left and right. There were a lot of great finishes throughout the course of this day, and this was just one of many, I would say. And I loved this game. I just can't lie. I loved this game so much, and I don't think the Bears are bad. But at 4-3, playing the division schedule they're playing, it's going to be an uphill climb for them. It is going to be tough for them to make a playoff run. We'll see if they do it. I think Caleb Williams continues to get better. This week was another down week, but I think you're going to start seeing the yardage numbers go up incrementally going forward. I think Caleb Williams, not everyone develops at the same pace. Not everyone's going to step in and just be lightning right away like Jaden Daniels did with Cliff Kingsbury and co. over there. Hey, sometimes it takes a little bit of time. You're seeing that with Bo Nix, and I think you're seeing that with Caleb Williams. I mean, especially coming off of a 4-touchdown day in London versus the Jaguars. I mean, that's a home game for the Jaguars. So doing that on the road, going on a long road trip to do it, that's impressive to me. And it bears noting, and I think they're just going to continue to get better. But that being said, tough loss, hilarious loss for your boy. The 49ers get the win over the Cowboys in Sunday Night Football. This game, I mean, it kind of stunk. Like, CeeDee Lamb went off. 13 receptions, 146 yards, 2 touchdowns. He won some people some fantasy football matchups. I'll tell you that right now. He had like 40 fantasy points this week, something crazy like that. Another bad week to have Jordan Mason on your fantasy team. Isaac Guerrero ended up taking over for him. I think he got injured again at a certain point in this game. Isaac Guerrero took over for him, though. Went 85 yards, a touchdown. It's just plug and play in that backfield. Everyone knows that for Kyle Shanahan. Brock Purdy had himself a solid enough game. Ultimately, they did get the win 30-24, but it needed a torrid comeback in the fourth quarter for the Cowboys to make some noise there. Really didn't get interesting until the last couple minutes of the game, and I was kind of pissed that it got interesting because then I had to stay up and watch it, quite frankly. And look, man, I got to work early in the morning. I mean, it's not that early. It's probably around the same time that everyone goes into work, but still, I got an early morning, already staying up later than my bedtime. Maybe we move this thing along, but the Cowboys had the audacity to score, make it an interesting game, and I had to stay up and watch the whole thing. If you're going to twist my arm, I guess I'll watch football, whatever. The 49ers, though, I'm not sure how much we can take of this one being close. I mean, this was just kind of a weird game down the stretch. The Cowboys had a spurt, but for the most part, the 49ers looked dominant for most of this game. I mean, by God, they had what's that math there? 27-10 lead going into the fourth quarter. They had this game well in hand. They just kind of fell asleep at the wheel for a little bit there in the fourth quarter. I mean, the 49ers, they're still, I believe, the cream of the crop in that division. The Rams are going to have something to say about that, but for right now, I still think they're the cream of the crop in the division. I have a hard time seeing them be a championship contender. We'll just see if Christian McCaffrey comes back. If he does come back, if we're seeing any lingering effects of that long-term Achilles tendonitis. I don't know. I can tell you that the Cowboys are a bad football team. The 49ers, though, they're symptomatic of a down NFC right now, and I have a hard time without Ayuk in there. Debo, is he going to be healthy for most of the season? Christian McCaffrey, is he coming back? Defense, not as good as it has been. Shout out to Nick Bosa, by the way, showing the MAGA hat in the post-game interview for Brock Purdy, and then refusing to talk about it. Which, that makes sense. He's a quiet guy. But hey, if you're going to wear the hat, at least field the questions, I suppose. All he said is this an important time. And hey, if it's an important time, you already showed the MAGA hat on national television. Why not talk about it a little bit? They invited you to do so. So, hey, just my 2 cents on the whole matter. But yeah, that was weird. 49ers are a little bit weird as a team. Unrelated to that, I don't think it matters that Nick Bosa is a Trump guy. I think pretty much everyone, there's a reason why they called him Magatron, guys. No one really cares about that at this point. But that's just, the 49ers are a little bit of a flawed team. Most teams in the NFC are a flawed team, though. It's just when they face off against a team like Detroit, I think Detroit's going to be favored pretty substantially in that game, and that should tell you what you need to know about where the favor lies and who's the better team. I just don't think the 49ers have the horses this year to make a run, but hey, still a solid team, still a solid head coach. All you got to do is get hot. We already talked about it. All you got to do is get hot. Okay, Monday night game. I didn't click on that. Go back. We have to go back. Okay, there we go. Monday night game. This one, I'm a real sicko for watching this one instead of the World Series. The Steelers got the win, 26-18. Just a putrid football game. In between the 20s, the Steelers could do everything that they wanted. They were unbeatable between the 20s. All of a sudden, you get down inside that 20-yard line, and Russell Wilson is pissing down his leg like a scared dog, man. It looks terrible inside the 20s. Now, outside of the 20s, they are running the shit out of the ball right now. Russell Wilson looks much better as a passer than Justin Fields. Maybe a good call by Mike Tomlin on that one. They got to figure out a red zone offense, and I think it's pretty symptomatic. The red zone offense is a symptom of the problem of not having really any playmakers outside of George Pickens in the receiving core right now. I think that's emblematic of that to the nth degree at this point. So it's not something you're going to be able to change. I don't think it's Arthur Smith's fault necessarily. That being said, good offensive coordinators scheme up their best stuff when they're down in the red area and it's time to score touchdowns. So you expect better. They are better than they were under Matt Canada, and that's really all you can ask at this point. We'll see if they can continue to improve with Russell Wilson at quarterback. Jury's still out on that one. I think they'll be good enough to continue to win games, though. They're 6-2. Could they possibly finish better than 9-8 this year? People are asking. People are asking right now. I may be one of those people. That's interesting football team. They have a really good defense. Notwithstanding Tyrone Tracy going wild on them. 145 yards and a touchdown on 7 yards per carry in this game. He was gashing the Steelers all game long. So that notwithstanding, you got to worry about the running defense on that one. They still got a really good defense. They got a really good rushing offense, and that's a recipe for success in the league at any era, quite frankly, is defense, running game, good enough quarterback to not shoot you in the foot. That's what you're looking for the Steelers. Hey, they're all alone at the top of the AFC North right now, and maybe they stay there. I don't know if they're a Super Bowl contender, but under Mike Tomlin, they're pretty much a playoff team every single year. So you're seeing that again. We'll see if they continue the hot streak, man. They are one of the sneakier teams. We'll see how legit they are down the stretch, but one of the sneakier teams in the league right now. And the Giants stink. That's all I got to say about that. That is it for week 8, though. Let's get a quick time check. Okay, so we're at an hour 8. Let's just kind of breeze through these slate of games for the next week. So let's kind of recap the bets that we have on the board already. Okay, so on Tuesday, we added Army minus 22.5. You can now get that at minus 21.5 over at FanDuel, and I can't remember what the other sports book was. You can get that at a minus 21.5 over at FanDuel now, though. So you got a better deal if you waited on that one. Texas A&M minus 2.5 at South Carolina. I'm taking a risk on that one, but I believe in Texas A&M. And of course, we added Nebraska minus 6.5. That 2.5 for Texas A&M and the 6.5 for Nebraska still widely available, so you can go get that right now. This week, we got 4 more bets to add. I have got 3 in the NFL and 1 in college for a total of 7 on the weekend. Let's just go through the slate here. We're not going to have to wait too long to get to the first pick because it's on Thursday night. The Texans are at the Jets, and when I saw this line, I was flabbergasted. It made 0 sense to me. I don't understand this, but the Jets are favored by 2.5 points over at BetMGM. Look, listen to this scummy shit that BetMGM did. I gotta make sure. Now, if this is correct, and I don't have a BetMGM account, but if this is correct, they got minus 120 juice on plus 2.5. They got minus 110 juice on minus 2.5. Now, at a reasonable sports book that sets lines fairly and juices odds fairly, that would be probably like a plus 100, like a minus 102, maybe, something in that range. Never a minus 1. You're not giving me even juice when the other side is minus 120. That's just, that does not speak well of BetMGM as a sports book. I'll tell you that right now. I just got spittle on the screen. I apologize for that. But we're on the Texans, man. I mean, I bet them at plus 1.5 on FanDuel because I got excited. You can find, don't bet at BetMGM, I would say, unless they start paying us at some point. And then, hey, bet at BetMGM. But as far as, other sports books out there, you can get plus 2 pretty widely available right now. If you're looking to bet on the Jets, you're looking to bet against me, you can get a minus 1.5 over at FanDuel and DraftKings. I'm telling you, I think the Jets win this game. Not the Jets, sorry. I think the Texans win this game, so I have got for purposes of integrity, you can still get a plus 2, but I have got the Texans at plus 1.5. That is our first pick edition of this week. No opinion on the over-under at 42.5. This could go either way on that one. I really don't know. Both these offenses don't instill a lot of confidence, but have high highs. And the defenses, I think, have the advantage on both fronts. So I guess I'd lean the under, but no real lean on that. The Ravens are favored at minus 9 in most places. You can get a 9.5. Over at ESPN and FanDuel Sportsbooks. If you're looking to bet the plus 9.5, they got them there for you. I slight lean to the Broncos. I don't know, man. I mean, the Broncos haven't exactly played a murderer's row of a schedule. So I'm staying away from this one. This is a get-right spot for the Ravens. You're looking to atone for your sins against a home or in front of a home crowd. I could see the Ravens winning by a whole lot in this game. Over-under, you can get a 45.5 over at DraftKings at the moment. I'd lean the over at that number, but I'm just not ready to pull the trigger on it. If you're willing to do that, don't hate the pick, but I'm not willing to pull the trigger on that one right now. Raiders are at the Bengals. Bengals are favored by 7 in most places. If for some godforsaken reason you're looking to bet on the Raiders, have at it. It's plus 7.5 over at FanDuel. They're the only one that's got that number right now. Bengals minus 7. Lean the Bengals. The Raiders are a god-awful football team. And we don't have a pick. The Raiders offense, I know they're going up against the Bengals defense, but I don't have any faith in the Raiders offense to score any points in this game. So I'm staying away from that 46.5. I'd probably lean the under on that on the total. Patriots at the Titans. You want to talk about a game? I literally, unprompted, I looked at this game, I looked at this matchup, and I said out loud, audibly, gross game with the Patriots at the Titans. Titans are favored by 3.5. I guess you can get a 3 for some serious juice. Now, this is what you should do when the juice is at minus 120 on one side. Now, it's minus 120 on the minus 3. it's plus 100 on the plus 3. That's how you should be doing it, BetMGM. That's what a sports book. That's what a sports book with a reasonable amount of integrity does. So that's my 2 cents on that. I mean, it kind of depends on Drake May's health. If Drake May is healthy, I'd lean the Patriots, but just don't bet on this game. Again, this is one of those games. If you're placing any money on this, call the hotline, man. Just call the hotline. Over-under's 38.5, and I'd still lean the under. That's how bad this game is going to be in my mind. Just, putrid, stinky garbage. 2 top 5 pick sort of teams just duking it out for who's going to suck more. It's just terrible. Terrible stuff. Woo! Excuse me. Had a bit of a burp there that just went retroactive on me. You want to know how bad the Panthers are. The Saints are favored by 7.5 on the road against the Panthers, and I'm sure part of this is due to the fact that they ran the Panthers out of the building in week 1. But I'm not betting on the Saints. Right, this is another just gross, disgusting game, and it's a divisional matchup. Thankfully, this is the last time they're going to face each other this year, so we don't have to pour bleach in our eyes for more than just this week. But boy, this is a stinky matchup. I would lean the Panthers, but I ain't betting on the damn Carolina Panthers right now, man. Bryce Young's the quarterback. Lean the under, too, at 43.5. This is just a stinky, stinky matchup. No one bet on that game either. That's pathetic. That's a pathetic matchup. The Cowboys are at the Falcons. It's too high of an over-under. It's 51.5 over at FanDuel at the moment, and ESPN Bet. I'd still lean the over, but it's just too much, too rich for my taste at this moment. I don't trust the Cowboys enough, quite frankly. I'm leaning the Falcons at minus. You can still get a minus 2.5 in a couple places, but with some insane juice. So we're still just going to call it minus 3 in most places. Which interesting little dynamic there. It looks like those books are flirting with moving to 3.5. I guess they're all moving in the same direction, I suppose, or maybe they're looking to move down to 2.5. I don't really know. I'm tired at the moment, folks. It's starting to catch up with me. So yeah, lean the Falcons at minus 3. That's a no bet from me though at the moment. The Bills are hosting the Dolphins. Bills favored by 6 in most places. If you're looking to pay some juice on the Bills, you can get a 5.5 over at FanDuel. That's like minus 120 juice. So not favorable. Not something that I would probably pull the trigger on just based on the risk-reward proposition. Lean the Bills in this one, but I'm still waiting to see if the Dolphins kind of round into a little bit more of shape with Tua back in the lineup. They lost a tough one last week versus the Cardinals, but played okay in spurts. So definitely lean the Bills. Hell, I might place my own hard-earned money on the Bills. I just can't put it out as a public pick, quite frankly. I don't feel good enough about it at this point to do that. Over-under 49 in most places. You get a 49.5 if you're leaning the under on this one. I would lean the over, but again, it's a no bet for me. I just if the Bills just kill Tua, hopefully not literally, knock on wood. Hope I didn't just jinx him there. That would be tragic to the nth degree, and I'd have to put out an apology immediately. Don't think we have that power, but it's it couldn't hurt to do a little apology there. I could see the Bills just dominating the Dolphins' offensive line and making them look hapless. So yeah, I'm staying away from this one on both fronts, but definitely lean the Bills. And no real opinion on the over-under. I think that could go either way. The Chargers are at the Browns. Browns are 1.5-point dogs pretty much across the board. I'd lean the Chargers on this one, but Jameis gives me pause, so I'm staying away from this one. I think the Browns are still a work in progress with Jameis Winston at quarterback, and they still have a really solid roster, so staying away from that one. I'd lean the Chargers, though. Over-under is 42.5. You get 43s at some places. I mean, the Chargers just play under football, so I would lean the under on that one, but that's a no bet from me as well. We got the Commies at the Giants. This one was a borderline bet at over 43.5 for me. I ended up staying away from it because I just don't trust the Giants offense. But it's a hard lean on the over at 43.5. I will say that right now. But as far as the spread goes, Kami's favored by 3.5 in some places, 4 in most others. Obviously, I'm leaning the Commanders. I just, rookie quarterback. Offense, I mean, the roster is still kind of a work in progress. Credit in the world to the job that Adam Peters and Dan Quinn have done in year one. Also, Cliff Kingsbury. By God, what an offensive coordinator he has turned out to be in ways that I did not expect. But still, they have some holes on the roster, and they have a rookie quarterback. So things can get weird in a road spot where you're favored. I tend to stay away from those sorts of things. I've been burned in the past, so I'm staying away now. I'm hesitant to say the least. Definitely a hard lean to the Commanders though on that one. We got our sixth pick of the we got our fifth pick of the weekend. Excuse me. As we come to the Bears and Cardinals, the over/under is set at 44.5 across the board right now. I think the Bears are going to be able to score on the Cardinals, and I think the Cardinals are good enough on offense to score against this solid Bears defense, and at least enough to score 45 total combined points. So give me the over at 44.5. That is an official pick for this week. Love that one. As far as the spread itself, Cardinals are a 1-point favorite most places. You can get a 1.5 if you're looking to bet the Bears. I would lean the Bears in this one, actually. The Cardinals, though, I do think that they could win this game. I think it's going to be a really good game. I'm staying away from it. I would ever so slight lean to the Bears, though. I just feel like this is a good spot for them. Coming off of a tough loss, you're going to want to, round into shape and play your best football right now. You need to play your best football right now. Every game going forward is a must-win for the most part because you're going into a gauntlet of your schedule here. That they're going to need to show up, and I just have a feeling. I have a feeling they're going to win this game, but no hard lean on that one. We do obviously pick the 44.5 on the over there for this game, though. The Jaguars are at the Eagles. Eagles favored by 7.5 across the board. I hate the hook on that half point there. I think the Eagles win. I have a hard lean on them covering, but I do not like betting minus 7.5 point spreads. It feels like there's a lot of room for fuckery there with that 7.5 instead of the 7. So I'm staying away from that at the moment. If that moves to 7 at some point before kickoff, I'm tempted to go ahead and do that, but there's not a whole lot of juice that makes me think that this line is going to move. So right now, I'm staying the hell away from that. I'm staying the hell away from that. Over/under is 45.5. Slightly into the over, but the Eagles defense is rounding into shape. Jaguars offense just lost Christian Kirk, so I'm right down the middle on that one. It could go either way once again, so that's why I'm staying away from it. We got the Rams at the Seahawks. Rams favored by 1.5 across the board. I'm leaning the Rams on this one. They're getting healthy at the right time. This is a big time spot for them. Interdivisional game. They're going to show up with a chip on their shoulder. Now the Seahawks' home field advantage is legit. However, I just think the Rams are a better team, so it's a lean on the 1.5. But the Seahawks, man, they're going up against the Rams defense that isn't exactly talented on that side of the ball. They have some questions in the offensive line, and I think the Rams can take advantage of that. But at the same time, I think Ryan Grubb is a good enough offensive coordinator to where I think they're going to score some points on the Rams in this game, and this could be a live game down the stretch in this one. Over/under is 48.5 in most places. You get a 48 over at DraftKings, it looks like at the moment. I would lean the over in this game. I just feel like there's a real shot for the over, but I feel like that line is probably about right, so I'm staying away from it. Good lean on the over in that one, though. Good lean on the over. The Lions are at the Packers, and this will be our final NFL pick of the week. Once again, over-unders. I don't love these spreads, but I do like these over-unders. You can get a 47.5 right now over at FanDuel. That's the lowest over-under you're going to get. I'm taking that. Over 47.5 in this game. I think the Packers defense is good. I think the Lions defense is good. But at the same time, I think the Packers offense is very, very good. Obviously, the Lions offense is the best offense in the entire NFL at the moment. Even with how good the Packers defense is playing, I think barring turnover luck, I think these teams are gonna breeze past that 47.5 mark. So give me the over on that. As far as the spread goes, you can get a pretty good mix of 3.5. Give me a slight lean to the Lions, but Lambeau Field is legit, man. You don't want to mess around with that home field advantage at Lambeau Field. And the Packers are a solid team in their own right. This is just one of many crucial, big-time interdivisional games with the NFC North here. And I think this is going to be a good one. Ever so slight lean to the Lions in this game, but I think this is going to be a really good game. And I think both teams are going to show up for a fight. And this is going to be a fun one. I really hope it's going to be a fun one. I like myself some fun football. The game I'm most interested in, Colts at the Vikings. The line is 5.5 in most places. You get a 5 over at, I'm sorry, my nose, I'm just having one of those days where my nose itches a lot. It happens a lot sometimes. You just need to slow down the brain there, Caleb. We got a 5 over at DraftKings. That's the best line for the Vikings that you're going to find. I still lean the Vikings because I have a hard time picking objectively when the Vikings are involved. That's just the sad fact of the matter. So I'm not picking it. Obviously, I'm leaning the Vikings, but I would be remiss if I didn't say the Colts with Joe Flacco are a live dog. Even in a road game, in a nighttime setting, I feel like Joe Flacco is the type of quarterback that every once in a while he'll just pull one straight out his keister. And we just had the Rams do it to us last week. We lost Christian Darrisaw for the season. Hey, I'm worried about this game, but I'm leaning the Vikings. Over-under is 46.5 pretty much across the board. And books are in pretty much lockstep on that one. I guess the lean would be on the over. I think it's a pretty solid line there, so I'm not picking either way on that one. It's obviously the lean is on the over though. Then the final game of the week, we got the Buccaneers at the Chiefs. Chiefs are favored by 9, 8.5. Kind of depends on what book you go to. FanDuel and DraftKings got an 8.5 right now. Looks like ESPN Bets got that too. So just shop around on that. Obviously the lean is going to be on the Chiefs because the Chiefs is the Chiefs. But the Buccaneers, man, they continue to perplex me. I could see them getting blown out in this game, man. I could see them losing by a whole lot. I could also see them just pulling one straight out their keister and winning this. Baker Mayfield's a feisty QB. That's the best way to put it. He's a feisty QB, and you never count out a feisty QB. And that's a big line. That they could lose by 7 and still cover. So I'm staying away from this one. I don't like betting on big spreads like this unless it is a really, really god-awful team playing a really, really good team like the Lions and the Titans last week. So I guess lean the Chiefs in this game. No, actually, I lean the Buccaneers to cover. I think they can find a way to keep this one close. And the Chiefs' offense isn't exactly world beaters right now. So I can see this thing getting closer as I itch my nose even a little bit more. Over-under's 45.5. Probably lean the under on this one. Both offenses bereft due to injury. Both defenses, fairly solid. Well, I guess the Buccaneers defense did just get excoriated by the Falcons last week, but that's been happening to a lot of teams in the NFL right now. So, yeah, I don't know. I guess I lean the Buccaneers, lean the under. So there you have it. And there is the slate for next week. We have got one more bet to add to round this thing out at 7. Upon further inspection, I am taking Tennessee at -16 versus Kentucky. I just thought to myself and thought about the matchup. And what does Kentucky want to do? How do they stay in these big matchups? They just get the opposing team into a rock fight and just try to limit the possessions, kill clock, keep it close till the very end, and maybe something good happens for you. You play stifling defense, and you have a good running game, right? That's what Kentucky does. Tennessee just does that, but they're better at it. And when you have a team that does exactly what you do, they're just better at it than you are. It's a recipe for an under, for sure, but it's a recipe for the team that's favored to win in dominant fashion, and especially at home in Neyland. I don't know how good Nico is going to be, but I don't know if it's necessarily going to matter. So Tennessee minus 16. I'm taking them against Kentucky, and that's an official bet. So to round things out, let's do a quick summary of our picks. Army minus 22.5 versus Air Force. You can get that at 21.5 if you waited on it. Texas A&M minus 2.5 at South Carolina. That one's still widely available. Nebraska minus 6.5 versus UCLA. That one is also still widely available. And then we're into the ones that we added today. Texans plus 1.5 at the Jets. Tennessee minus 16 versus Kentucky. Lions, Packers over 47.5. Bears, Cardinals 44.5. We're taking the over there on that one. And with that, may we be profitable this weekend. May we bet responsibly. Be betting the beer money, not the rent money. We're getting right down to the end of the month here. So don't be spending money that you don't have, folks. That is my advice to you. I am not a financial professional, but hey, just good, sound advice for you. With that said, though, thank you so much for tuning into Unqualified Analysis. This has been the Week 8 recap. We have got a loaded weekend of football ahead, so I hope you all enjoy that. If you enjoyed this episode, and maybe I can find this notes app at some point. If you enjoy this episode, why don't you go ahead and leave a like, subscribe, share it with 15 to 20 to 100 friends to help me grow this thing a little bit. And yeah, if you like me, thank you. And you can follow me on the Twitter at CalebVUA. The link will be down in the description, so you can just go ahead and, peruse over there. Hit the follow button. Maybe shoot me a DM if you got something to add to the show. Try not to talk shit, but hey, shit happens when you're on the internet, so do what you got to do, I suppose. And outside of that, if you want to contact me, either shoot me that DM, or go to the email. That's unqualifiedanalysis@gmail.com. Also down in the description, so you can find that there. And yeah, outside of that, thank you so much for tuning into Unqualified Analysis. You can find us everywhere, pretty much. And as always, I've got no clue what I'm talking about. My nose has no clue why it itches. It's got no brain, but here we are. Anywho, one thing that I learned this week, and this one's hot off the presses, there are places in the Atacama Desert in Peru, I believe it is, that have never had recorded rainfall. And I'd like to remind you that, and this was a one thing I learned this week previously, but it's worth reminding you all, the dry valleys of Antarctica have not had precipitation in 2 million years. 2 with 6 zeros after it. That's how many years. An impossible amount of time to even conceptualize. That's how long it's been since the dry valleys of Antarctica had rainfall, or probably more accurately, snowfall. Crazy. Just crazy stuff. The driest place in the entire world, actually, down there in the dry valleys of Antarctica. So yeah, enjoy the weekend of football. I'm going to go plug this thing in before it dies. And yeah, I will see y'all on Tuesday to recap ourselves some college football. Until then, deuces. Enjoy Thursday Night Football.